Escrow scenario number 1, the golden path. The golden path means that the buyer does everything that is expected of them. The seller does everything that is expected of them. At the end of the agreement, the buyer is happy, the seller is happy, paradise. Let's go through a quick demo. You can create an escrow agreement by entering the app, coming over to the contracts library. Each card represents a different contract. On the live website, there will only be solid contracts enabled. You can go over to the repo in Git to check out the in-development contracts. Use at your own risk, but that's the whole premise of the platform. It's completely open source. Tweak it to your heart's content. You can choose one of the enabled contracts and customize it to your needs. Click Create Contract. Provide your digital signature. And then you now have a contract that you can use to execute a real estate transaction. So the platform at the moment is only functional on Algorand. The next blockchain that will be rolled out to will be Ethereum. The Algorand protocol requires you to make a deposit on chain to use a smart contract. This is an incentive to prevent people from using the chain for pointless applications. The other part of the Algorand protocol requires each address to explicitly opt in to receiving a particular ERC20 or ASA or token. In this example, it's USDCA. So after that's done, we can now send the first escrow payment. When it gets mined to the next block, you'll see the escrow widget update. We can now pull out if we don't like what we see as the buyer, and as a checks and balances, the seller is allowed to sue the buyer if they so wish. Each wallet, aka the one that represents the buy side and the sell side, should be multi-sig to prevent the seller alone or the buyer alone from sabotaging each other. If it's multi-sig, the realtor can have a checks and balances on not allowing the seller to sabotage the buyer and vice versa. So we're now in the inspection period. We should be checking out the property, assessing the different systems, the roof, electrical, plumbing, etc. This is the golden path that we're walking through in this example. So let's send the second escrow, because in the golden path, the buyer loves the property, the seller loves the buyer, paradise. Along the way, each side of the deal can leave notes on chain or revise the contract if needed. But this is the golden path, right? At this point, we're going to wait for the closing date to elapse. And at that point, the seller will be able to withdraw the money. We're approaching the moving date now. This is the date that the seller should be moved out. The buyer should be moved in. All of the financing on the buyer side should be taken care of. And plenty of time for each party to sue each other if something goes awry. But this is the golden path. We are now going to wait for the closing date to elapse, and then the seller will be able to withdraw the money. So now the seller can withdraw their money. That is escrow scenario number 1. It is the most common, if not one of the most common scenarios that people who use Kalygo will encounter.